Okay, good morning, everybody, and Chazak Ubaru. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Tuesday morning, and of course, wishing everyone a Chodesh Tov Uvorach, a happy new month ahead for us and for all of Am Yisrael. This month, of course, is the month of Tammuz, which has a little bit of a negative, sad connotation. Tammuz, we know, is the beginning of the 3 weeks, which are coming up in 2.5 weeks. Shava'ah Asar B'Tammuz, and then that begins the mourning process for the Bet HaMikdash. But we also know that the sad days are going to be turned into happy days. They are going to be flipped into days of celebration. Be'ezat Hashem, we will celebrate this year as a happy day. Shava'ah Asar B'Tammuz, with the arrival of Mashiach. Tisha B'Av will be a day of celebration, of feasting, not of fasting, a day of celebration and joy and Besarot Tovot for us and for all of Am Yisrael. Amen. My friends, we are studying Parshat Korah. Parshat Korah, of course, we know Korah is a man who is actually Moshe Rabbeinu's cousin. Okay? He is the son of Yitzhar. The Pasuk opens up. Vayikach Korah ben Yitzhar. He is the son of Yitzhar. And you know Yitzhar is Moshe's uncle, Amram's brother. So you have over here a cousin of Moshe. But this man was, unfortunately, he didn't have any feelings of love for his cousin Moshe. He actually comes and he tries to overthrow his cousin. He takes with him a very interesting group of people. Korah comes along with Datan and Aviram, and he comes with On, and he gets up with 250 men. So there's a lot of nouns, there's a lot of personalities, there's a lot of people involved in this mutiny against Moshe Rabbeinu. And what exactly is going on? All the different personalities, all the different people, a lot of moving parts in this story. And if you take a look at Rabbeinu Bachye says that actually each one here had a different agenda. Take a look, my friends, at the Rabbeinu Bachye. Vehine Datan ve'Aviram, Datan and Aviram, and On, Shalakach Korach le'atzmo. These three guys, Datan, Aviram, and On, Hechziku b'machloket hazeh, they joined this machloket, they supported this quarrel, mipnei shehashvu ki Moshe Rabbeinu hesira bechora mereuven avihem v'natna leYosef. Wow, look at this, unbelievable. What if you know? You have to ask the question. Korah, we know what he wants. Korah is very easy to understand. Maybe you don't agree, but you can understand. Korah is jealous. And it's later on, Rabbeinu Bachye is going to explain that Korah basically realizes here that it's not fair. Everyone got a piece of the cake except for him. Moshe became king. His brother Aharon, Kohen Gadol. Cousin, youngest cousin in the family, got also something. He became leader of the family. All of a sudden, Korah, who's also one of the cousins, he gets nothing. He gets basically excluded from the family business. So you can understand Korah's anger. You can understand his jealousy. Korah wants to be in charge. If you were to go over to Korah and say, Korah, what would you like? Korah would say, I want to be in charge. I want to be a leader. I want to be something. Leviim, everyone in Levi got something except for me. It's not fair. I want to be something. Good. So you understand why Korah is here. The question is, what is Datan and Aviram doing? The two other guys, and On, really, he says over here that they're actually not from Levi. So what are you joining? What do you want? So he explains Rabbeinu Bachye, Moshe Rabbeinu, they thought that Moshe removed the Bechorah from Reuven Avihem, then Atna Yosef. Wow. It turns out that Datan and Aviram, who were from the tribe of Reuven, they're not even Leviim. They're Reuven. But they also had qualms against Moshe. They felt that Moshe removed the birthright from Reuven. Remember Reuven? Remember Reuven many ages ago? Reuven, he was the oldest, but he didn't remain with the perks of the birthright. They were taken away from him, and they were given to who? Who did Yaakov give the birthright to instead of Reuven? Yosef. Remember Yosef got 2 tribes? Yosef was not just Joseph. It was Yosef split into two, Ephraim and Menashe. And over here, Datan and Aviram, they accused Moshe of doing that on his own, without God's permission. They said, you took it away from Reuven, you gave it to Yosef. And why would he want to do that? Why would he give it to Yosef? Moshe, they suspected that Moshe did this, ba'avur Yehoshua, for Joshua's sake. Shehaya Meshevet Ephraim, his disciple, his top student, was from Ephraim. So they accused, can you believe this? They accused Moshe of removing the birthright from Reuven and giving it to Yosef for Ephraim's sake, for Yehoshua Rabbeinu's sake, for Yehoshua ben Nun's sake. The Asad lo degel not to give him his own flag. Wow, this is wild stuff. So you have over here different things going on. You have Korah, who wants to be the leader because he's a Levi. You have the Tana Aviram, who actually don't want it to go to Levi. They want to be Reuven. They wanted to go back to the firstborn, back many years ago. And then you have the other Hamishim Umatayim. Then you have 250 men. What do they want? They're not Leviim, and they're not from Reuven. They were Bechorot. They were firstborns. The Avodat HaKorbanot Hayta Bechorot. Remember, originally, it was supposed to be the firstborn of every family was supposed to be serving in the temple. It wasn't originally supposed to be every tribe, that only one tribe served in the temple. Originally, every family was supposed to have a representative. Every family had the oldest brother who was the guy in Kolel, so to speak, who you were supporting. And he was in there, and every family had a representative in the temple. But what happened was they lost it because of which sin? Which sin did they lose it because of? The Egel. Very good. And all the firstborns, they lost their right, and it went instead to Levi. When Moshe Rabbeinu came down from Har Sinai, and he said, Mila Hashem Elai, who's with me? And Levi came. So you have a lot of people that are upset. Reuven is upset. And the firstborns are upset. And Korah is upset. But what's very interesting is that they all joined together. They all joined together to overthrow Moshe Rabbeinu. And the truth is, it's very interesting because they're not really united. They're not united in a goal. They're not united in a cause. They only are united in the sense that they have a common enemy. Yeah? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. I don't like him and you don't like him, so I guess we could temporarily join hands. And that is the key word in the sentence, my friend. Temporarily. And we have to realize that when people unite, not because they have a similar goal or vision, but because they unite because they share in an enemy, they share what they don't like, that's a very short-term plan. That's a very short-term plan, and it's not going to last. That's what happens here. You know, our rabbis tell us in Pirkei Avot the following. Something very interesting. You know, when you study this episode of Korah and you study the story, what is the conclusion? What do you walk away concluding? When you study the story of Korach and how he argues. So most rabbis, many times you'll hear a rabbi get up and say, from here we learn, Rabotai, the dangers of machloket. We learn from here how bad it is to argue. We learn never to argue. You see, argument, what it leads to, very bad to argue. Has to be shalom. Have to be agreeing. Shalom holds bracha. Shalom is very important. To argue, very bad to argue. Is that a fair conclusion? Can be. First of all, we're Jews, okay? Jews, we always argue. That's who we are. Right? 2 Jews, 3 opinions. That's what it is. But the truth is even more than that. The whole Gemara is filled with mahloket. Think about it. Every page, there's somebody fighting. Mishna, 3 rabbis arguing in the Mishna. And then in the Gemara, there's 4 rabbis arguing each opinion of the Mishnah. What he holds, no, this is what he holds, no, that's what he holds. Then you have Rashi who explains it one way, and then you have Tosfot argues on him, explains it another way, and then you have the Maharsha, the Pnei Yoshua, and the Rashba, and the Ritva. I mean, the whole Torah, my friends, is a mahloket. Hacham Ovadia, right? I always said, if you want to be a rabbi, I could give you smicha in 5 seconds. You ready? I make you a rabbi right now. You ready? Anytime someone asks you a question in halacha, all you need to do is answer. Mahloket. Just say, the answer is mahloket. It's in 2 opinions. You'll always be right. right? How long do you have to wait? Are you allowed to eat? Are you allowed to do this on Shabbat? Are you allowed to this, right? Mahloket. It's always a mahloket. Everything's mahloket. Acham Ovadia argues on the Ben Ish Chai. And then within Acham Ovadia, one son says his father held that, the other son says his father held that, right? So is it really fair to conclude mahloket is a bad thing? All of Torah is built on mahloket. And I'll prove to you that it's not the case, my friends. Please open Pirkei Avot. Pirkei Avot, we know, one of the books, very important book, of ethics. We've actually studied it in the past. We've done a whole series of classes on Pirkei Avot, and it was a really beautiful study together. Maybe we should go back to that. People have requested that we go back to studying Pirkei Avot again. And Pirkei Avot tells us that as actually the following: Kol mahloket shehi leshem shamayim sofa lehitkayem. The Mishnah says, any mahloket that is for the sake of heaven is going to last. And mahloket she'ena leshem shamayim en sofa lehitkayem. And the mahloket that's not for the sake of heaven is not going to last. And what's an example of a mahloket that's for the sake of heaven? Says the Mishnah, mahloket Hillel v'Shamai. Okay? The mahloket of Hillel Shammai is a mahloket that's going to last. Okay? So, if you're mahloket, if you're arguing, and you're arguing like Hillel and Shammai, that's a good type of argument. And you're allowed to argue. But if you're arguing that's not l'shem shamayim, if your argument is not for the sake of heaven, then you're not allowed to argue. It's not a good mahloket. It's not going to last. And what's the example? What's the example that the Mishnah brings of a mahloket that's not l'shem shamayim, that's not going to last? Anyone know? What's the paradigm of a bad mahloket, of a dangerous, of an unhealthy, of a cancerous mahloket? Mahloket Korah ve'adato. Mahloket of Korah and his people. Unbelievable. So we have our parasha, my friends, is the example, it's the paradigm of a mahloket that one should stay away from. A mahloket that's very dangerous. Don't get involved in the mahloket of Korach and his people. Rather, you should get involved of a mahloket of Korach, of Hillel and Shammai. And the question is, I'm just trying to find the exact Mishnah. I can't find it over here. I don't know why I'm losing it. But, okay, if anyone knows precisely where it is, please help me out. I'd appreciate it. But either way, that's what the Mishnah says, okay? The Mishnah is very clear. A mahloket, it's in Pirkei Avot. A mahloket that's l'shem shamayim is okay, and a mahloket that's not l'shem shamayim is not okay. And the question is, so first of all, you see from here very clearly, black and white, that if it's l'shem shamayim, it's okay. So to walk away saying that a mahloket is bad is really misrepresenting the truth. Okay, it's not true. Mahloket is not bad. Okay, mahloket could be bad, but mahloket could be very good. And like we just said, the whole Gemara is filled with mahloket. And the Mishnah here is very clear that a mahloket that's leshem shamayim is a good type of mahloket. You're allowed to argue if it's leshem shamayim. The question is, what does that mean, leshem shamayim? What does that mean, mahloket that's leshem shamayim? Mahloket for the sake of heaven. I'm only allowed to argue with my friend if it's related to Jewish law. Is that what it means, leshem shamayim? I can't argue with my friend politics. I can't argue with my friend about finances. Can't have an argument in the company about what's the right way to proceed. I'm only allowed to argue about Jewish things. Is that what it means? Mahloket l'shem shamayim. There's another question here, actually. You know, the Mishnah over here seems to be a little bit inconsistent. The Mishnah says, mahloket. What's an example of a good mahloket that you're allowed to have? Hillel versus Shammai. Yes? Hillel v. Shammai. That's a good mahloket. Now you're telling me both sides. You're telling me Hillel and then you're telling me Shammai. Good. What is a mahloket that's not okay to have? So what should it say? It should say Korah versus Moshe. But if you pay attention, that's not what the Mishnah says. The Mishnah says, and ezohi mahloket shehilo l'shem shamayim, zo Korah ve'adato. It's a mahloket of Korah and his people. Korach and his people. And the question, my friends, is that it's inconsistent. You're telling me Korach and his people. It should have said Korach versus Moshe. The Mishnah, though, it doesn't say that. The Mishnah says Korach and his people. You know why? Because really there was no machloket of Korach and Moshe. If Korach was fighting Moshe, that would have been fine. There's no problem. You're allowed to argue. You're allowed to debate. You could have machloket. You have Hillel Shammai. You could have Korach Moshe. There's no problem in that. You know what the real problem was? The problem over here was that there was a machloket amongst Korach's own party. Korach and his own people didn't even get along. If, like we just said from Rabbi Farhi, if you went to Korach and you asked him what he wanted Levi. You go to Datan and Aviram, they wanted that it should go back to Reuven. If you go to the 250 men, they wanted that it should go to the firstborns. Everyone here had their own idea, their own opinion. And they weren't united, my friends. They weren't united in a goal. The only thing that brought them together was a temporary hatred of an enemy. And you see that today, my friends, how sad when in politics it becomes like that. You see so many times different parties joining together, not because they believe in the same thing, but it's just that they don't believe in the same thing. We both need to temporarily get rid of that guy. So let's join forces. But that, my friends, will never last. That's a machloket that's not l'shem shamayim. And that is what the Mishnah is trying to teach us. A machloket that's l'shem shamayim is where there's one side and there's another side. And we're arguing on each other. That's okay. We both agree on what we're arguing. When you're arguing on this and I'm arguing on that, and we both have our own idea, our own opinion, that's okay. We could come to a conclusion. Maybe you'll win, maybe I'll win, but at least we know we're putting the chips on the table. But if a person is getting together and it's not me versus you, but it's I'm even versing you, but I'll unite with you temporarily just to go against him, this is going to break up. This is not going to last. I'll give you an example. Sometimes there are members of a synagogue, they don't like the synagogue, right? And they drift. They leave. They open up their own place. But the truth is, if you ask them what didn't you like, or what is your dream, what is your goal, should a synagogue look like, they each have a different idea. They themselves aren't even unified in their vision. It's just that one guy didn't like the breakfast, the other guy didn't like the rabbi, the other guy didn't like the minyan, the other guy didn't like the speed, the other guy didn't like the chazan. Each guy didn't like something, so they're temporarily uniting to get rid of this. But you need to know, Mishna is teaching us, that you still don't have a unified vision. What's keeping you together? The moment you go there and you open up your own place, so you've gotten rid of this, but you still don't have a goal, you still don't have glue keeping this team together. There must be a goal, my friends, in order for there to be unity, in order for there to be cohesion. Korah and his adato, the problem was, if Korach and everyone on his side were on the same page, it's okay. You could argue. You're allowed to argue. The problem was that each guy himself didn't even care about the same thing. And so eventually it broke up. When you temporarily unite, so a key word again, it's a temporary unification. Yeah? Very powerful idea. And that's really what Moshe now understands. Moshe realizes that he has to address all different claims. How do you argue against them? You know, when you tell me what your problem is, I can tell you one answer, how to come to a fair compromise. But the problem here is there wasn't one claim. He had a claim, he had a claim, he had a claim. Everyone had their own claim. Yeah? And that's why you see Moshe addressing each one individually. First, he sends a message to Datan va'Aviram. Why does he do that? You can't address one guy of the group. You have to address everyone together. But the answer is because they weren't together. Datan and Aviram had their own opinion. So he addresses them privately with their opinion. And then he goes, right? And you even see later on all the different tests. First, you had to prove that Levi. Then you had to prove it was Aharon. Then you had to prove it wasn't the firstborns. You had to prove many different things over here because there were so many different arguments. And now we understand the first word of our parasha. Pasuk says, Vayikach Korah. And really, if you speak Hebrew, grammar would dictate that you need to say Vayikhu, plural. Vayikhu Korach and Datan and the 250 men. Why does it say Vayikah? Vayikah, singular, is really indicating to us that each person here was their own guy. They were each alone. They were each individuals. They were each alone. One guy, Korah took one thing. Datan and Aviram took another. 250 men, they were each separated. Really, they weren't unified. They weren't together on a goal. It's like this. You see it in politics sometimes, very ugly, right? When 3-4 different parties join together, not because they have a similar vision. The truth is, if you broke it up, you say, what in the world is this party doing with that party? It makes no sense. But we all don't like this guy. But that's okay. So you temporarily will get rid of that guy, but you have no spine. There's nothing to keep you together. There's no glue. There's nothing permanent about this. It's destined to fall when you're not in sync. It's very important, my friends, in life to always know, to always make sure that we're arguing. It's okay to argue. But to ask ourselves first, are we united in the vision? Are we united on this project? Why are we getting together? Reuven, Korah, Datan, Aviram, they get together, but it's for something that's not permanent. If they got together not because of what they liked, they got together because of what they don't like. We don't like Moshe. But really, each one, Rabbi Farhi is coming to teach us, each one had their own dream. Each one had their own vision. That's a machloket. That's not l'shem shamayim. Korah ve'adato. The machloket here was Korah amongst his own men. His own people couldn't even get along. Even themselves, they didn't see eye to eye. You see it on a bigger global scale when different isms get together. And again, you wonder, what is this group doing with that group? This group is anti all of these things. That group is pro all of these things. You wonder, how in the world do they get along? They're not even on the same page. They believe if you have that type of marriage, you should be deserving of death. And the other party is parading that type of marriage. It's the craziest thing. And yet they unify. You know why? Because there's a common enemy. And really, that's a machloket, it's not l'shem shamayim, because that will never last. Maybe temporarily. But the moment we get rid of the enemy, we're confronted with each other. We ourselves don't like each other. You move into the new shul, you realize that you're next to this guy that you yourself don't even see eye to eye. For a marriage to succeed, my friends, there has to be unified purpose. There has to be a goal. So many marriages, they fall, they crumble, because they get married because of the wrong values, the wrong ideas. Their love is based on something that's temporary. Ahava shetuluya badavar. I marry you because I love your money. I love your looks. I love your status. But these things are temporary, my friends, when there's no goal, when there's no unified goal. So the result is 50% marriages end up falling apart. When we have a common unified vision of what the synagogue, the house, this family, this community, this office, this company needs to look like, then we are able to unite. And that is a beautiful type of machloket. That's okay. As long as we're honest in what our values are, and as long as we're honest in what we're trying to get. Shammai was very clear. This is my opinion. Hillel was very clear. This is my opinion. So what happens is when you break it down and we're able to put all the chips on the table, all the facts, and we're able to come to a conclusion. This is what you hold. This is what I hold. What's the best? But when we're not saying what we hold, when we're saying what we don't hold, so fine, you've taken care of the problem, but you haven't really, because you've never addressed the main issue. You got rid of Moshe, but that's not the real issue. You get rid of Moshe, but what do you really want? What you really want, so you never really solved the problem. You fought all these days and months and years, maybe on what we don't like about the thing. So you resolved what you don't like, but you wasted all this time instead of really addressing the main problem. How many times in a machloket, husband and wife bickering, and they're fighting over not the real points. We're not even arguing anymore about what really we should be discussing. We have a difference of opinion of how we should raise our kids. That's fine. So argue about that. Let the time that we're arguing be productive towards that goal. And then all of a sudden, it somehow went from the kids to your mother, and then on the summer, and then this, and how in the world do we get to that? How did mahloket get to there? We've deviated from what the goal was. So long that we stay on point, so long that we stay here, so there's a chance that we could come to a resolution, that we could come to a possible favorable outcome. Maybe it's a compromise, maybe it's me, maybe it's you, maybe somewhere it's in between. But at least the issue was addressed. At least the issue was addressed. Over here, they never addressed the issue. They addressed what was not the issue. They addressed a side problem. That's a machloket, that's not l'shem shamayim. We should be zocheh, my friends, that all of the things that we argue about in life, because argue we will, argue we must. But may the arguments always remain l'shem shamayim. This way we could come to conclusions that will benefit us and benefit all the parties involved. What's up over here, everybody? Have a wonderful day. Hopefully we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.